And Ron Carter here, and
Brian
Brian
Marsolais, right here.
Marsolais.
Yeah, Marsolais.
Welcome to Marsolais.
Yeah, it's like
Welcome
it's like
to
the
the
sun in French, soleil.
ah.
Yeah, I
That's
thought
a
you'd know
French
that
name,
by now, Ron.
Marsolais.
The intelligent guy that you are, I figured you'd have already looked up that.
I I should have. You got me.
Yeah.
Um,
I think we should go back to, that vape that you're smoking.
well, first and foremost, right? I would. I'm more than happy to talk about my vape, but first and foremost, so this is the first episode of Mind Design podcast. Um, Brian and I have done like I think 3 different videos so far on the channel, on Brian's channel here, and just like, dude, I just like talking about this stuff with you. And so we just figured we just go live and do this once a week because we already have meetings once a week. Anyways, um, so
Yeah. Well, we've always said we've talked about some pretty deep things here and there, and people should hear our point of views.
yeah, ultimately, I think like it would just be able to help other people that were in spots that we've been in the past, at least with our thinking and like just for me speaking, like my thinking and thinking about my thinking and like all this like weird like meta stuff, but then also like because there was like a probably like a decade long period where it's like I'm thinking about my thinking and consciousness and reality and getting like really deep into that, but then like not able to apply it, not able to see how I could apply it to anywhere in my life, right? And it wasn't until like years
Right.
down the road that I can see that like it's directly applicable if you let it be, if you let it be, you know.
Yeah.
Eh,
Well, the funny thing about a lot of coaches, a lot of teachers, right? They end up, they're great coaches, they're great teachers, they're great at explaining, they're great at helping others. But when it comes to helping themselves, it's a little more challenging,
yeah, it always is.
you know?
What's the saying? A saying that Tyga used to always say. I heard a lot of people saying this too though, and it's that uh you can't read the label from inside the jar,
The jar.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
a
that's like
Tiger.
all
Did
of
Tiger
our
invent that saying, or is that
definitely.
something he picked up somewhere?
It's definitely not. I don't think he invented it. But here's the thing
Yeah.
with all of this stuff that like personal development, mindset, coaching, almost everything that you see is a concept that has already been communicated by somebody else, and then but that's the beautiful thing about this. It's like somebody can tell me a concept like that, and they could say it with different words, like you know, I'm trying to think off the cuff of like a different way to say you can't read the label from inside the jar. Um, but like when something really lands with each one of us as a human, it's like we kind of put our own spin on it. Like we have our own way of relating it. We're like, oh, so this is kind of like this, like in our minds. And then when I go to explain it to somebody else, I use that other knowledge, right? And so I think that's really kind of like what everybody is doing. And and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing because some people might resonate with one explanation and not resonate with another one, even though they're explaining the same thing. Um, and that actually reminds me. So I was in class today, and it was really cool. I was in English class. I really don't like that class, but
Yeah, yeah.
one of the things that we read today uh, in class was um, part of a piece that was written by Plato, right? And it
Hmm.
was like the allegory something. I can't remember all of it off the top of my head. Um, but the
Okay.
story that he was talking about and this concept was that he was talking with his students and he was saying, and this directly correlates with like what we love to talk about. That's why I'm like bringing it up. Uh, Plato was talking with the students and he was saying, imagine that there's imagine that there's a deep, dark like cave, right? And there's people in the cave, but these people are like fixed. Like it's like they're all there's like imagine three people standing shoulder to
Okay.
shoulder, but
This is
they're
now
like
this is your translation of what
this
he
is my
said.
translation of the
Okay.
story, right? But this
Because I was gonna say, from back then, he's talking pretty good.
yeah, real modern, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's like three people, right? And they're like standing shoulder to shoulder, but they're like chained down. Like so they have like a chain like at their neck, at their feet, at their arms, and they're only facing forward. They can't even turn their heads, so they don't even know that there's other people to the side of them. And they've been there their entire life. This is the only experience that they know, right?
Wow. Okay.
And and so you have these three people and they're facing this way, right? And the way that they're facing, there's like a wall right there. It's like the end of the cave. And behind them, they can't look behind them though, right? So, but behind them, there's a fire, and this fire is shining this light. So they're basically seeing like a silhouette on the wall of the cave, right?
Hmm. Okay.
And
I'm with you.
so they're seeing these shadows, but for them, they can't look to the left, they can't look to the right. All they know is that silhouette shadow. Like that screen, kind of like when you go to a movie theater, they have a projector playing and it looks like it's the real thing. It's like that's all they see, right?
Okay. So they only can see
That's
a silhouette of themselves. They can't
right.
see
Or if
their
anything else is
anything
or if
else.
anything else is
Just
moving in the cave behind
they
them,
don't see
they
it.
see the silhouette on the wall. And they don't think there's something back there behind us. They think, "Oh, look, it's a new thing over here." You
Yeah.
know?
It's not
Because
like they're like,
that's
oh, hey, the pizza guy's here.
right, right. So like that's all they know, right? And and then it goes on to say like now imagine one of these people like actually like gets free, like
Hmm.
realizes that he's in these kind of shackles, right? Unshackles himself because they're not locked. The shackles aren't locked. That's the other crazy part. They're just like
Ah,
so
okay.
he like
Okay.
realizes that they're not locked and then turns around and sees that this whole thing that he thought was his entire life, like everything that he knew, that he didn't just believe, like he knew everything in existence is what's on this wall. And then he realizes that there's this whole 3D space. The wall is just shadows from this light that's over here. And then realizes that there's an entrance to the cave. And he said, I want to go see what's out there. And he starts walking out there and he sees the whole world outside of this cave. He sees the sun, the sunsets, he sees the moon, stars, all this gorgeous land. And then he goes back into the cave
All
to
right.
go try to tell all the other people who are in their self-imposed shackles,
The two other people.
right? Like, hey, like you got to wake up. This isn't all there is. There's
Right.
all this stuff going on over here.
Hmm.
And and um and so I just thought this was a really cool story because it's like an analogy to what it's like when I realized for myself like the interconnectedness of things,
Right.
right?
Yeah, that's a great metaphor, Ron, because now it's almost like, are we living in the Matrix? Is it
Right.
that easy to turn around and just say, hey, wait a minute?
Right.
You
And
know?
here's the other crazy part about the story, is that he's giving this as a teaching to his students. So he thought of all of this to be able to get just to be able to get his students to think about their thinking and to think about their reality, to think about what their version of the back of the cave is and what they would experience if they like fully looked around. And but he also gave it as a warning because he said when you go back into the cave and you try to unclasp try to get everybody else to unclasp their shackles. A lot of them, uh, for lack of better words, I'm paraphrasing. They basically called the dude like crazy. They're like, "You're crazy. There's what do you mean? Like this is all there is." Like, and they didn't just say, "Oh, like there's more to like life and my perception of reality. I can go over there." They're just like they chose to stay like in their comfort zone and in their spot and what they already knew. And
Right.
and I found like I had that same experience because when I kind of stumbled across, I should say re-stumbled across because it's like something that I've always known, right? It's some deeper part of me that this interconnectedness of all things and like what we really are and like what the mind is. And but I stumbled across it and then I was like the guy running back into the cave, like to everybody I knew. I was like, "Hey, like, have you ever felt like just connected with everything to like my friends?" And they're like, "Yeah, like you go out in nature, you feel connected." I was like, "Yeah, but like connected."
Like
And
every cell of your body is
right.
actually connected.
And then they're like, "What?"
Yeah, exactly. Like, call 911. Ron Ron finally worked too hard, like we said. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you there. It's actually it's when you get connected like that, you're actually um I don't want to say you have a fear, but you have like, well, I can't really tell this to everybody because they're gonna think I'm friggin' cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah.
But it's real. And to leave the conditioning that we've been in the programming we've been through our whole entire life, right? It's just go to school, be in that classroom for 8 hours a day, right? Similar people are now comparing classrooms to prisons. They're going to teach you what's right and wrong, which is fine, but they're also going to teach you what they want you to learn, which a lot of it they're finding out just isn't true. I know I seen this interview with Prince, and he actually said, once I found out George Washington wasn't the first president, it just blew everything for him, right? And I'm like, what? George Washington wasn't the first president? And I actually looked it up, and sure enough, Prince was right. He wasn't
Really?
really the first president. Yeah, look it up. I think he was like
Hold
the
on.
eighth
Yeah,
president.
we're
You got to
gonna
Google that one.
we're gonna check this out right now. Was George Washington really there it is, the first president? AI says yes. Google AI says yes at least.
Okay.
Um who was technically the first president? John Hansing served as the first president of the original United States government, charactered by the Articles of Confederation in 1781, and twice before that played the key role at the critical junctures in holding the 13 states together in a unified nation.
Right.
Wow.
Wow, right?
Never
Mind
heard of
blown.
John Hanson.
And there's Prince showing us the way. Yeah. So, I guess, you just learn things, right, as you go. And then what's true, what's not true. Um, and you just have to go by your own insides, how you feel on certain things and believe it.
Yeah, I think, well, the thing is, you said what's true, what's not true, right? And
Mm,
the one thing that made me think of when you said that is like, what's true. See, we have this thing in society, at least in English, right? Wait, hold on. The dog is trying to get in the trash.
Is he trying or is he doing it?
Oh, he was definitely doing it.
Yeah.
There's no try with this dog,
Uh,
which is a good thing.
I
We can
know I
learn
know
from
the
that.
dog. I know the dog well.
Um, but okay, so like statements of like truth, right? There's this whole thing where it's like, um, where people say like my truth. This is my truth.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're saying it like, well, this is true for me, but it may not be true for you.
Yeah, that was real catchy a while back ago, wasn't it?
Right. I'm
Yeah.
just speaking my truth, right? You see that all
Yeah.
over social media. And it's like what that really means is like the opinion that you believe very strongly.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
but it
Your
even
truth, your opinion.
and so but the cool thing is like when I look at a word like truth, like what does truth actually mean? And it's like actually let's like Google it. I like doing this. I like looking at definitions of
Yeah,
things.
I let's look up the definition of truth, right? First, we'll look up what AI says, and we'll look up what Prince says.
Yeah. Prince's opinion.
Yeah.
It's basically if we find the definition of truth and it's going to say whatever Prince says.
Yeah.
All right. The quality or state of being true. That which is true or in accordance with fact or reality. The truth. Tell me the truth. A fact or belief that is accepted as true. Okay. So, I mean, it's pretty much what I thought, right? But something can't be the truth if it's this person's truth and not this person's truth.
Hmm.
Like
Well,
if
that's
it is
interesting.
if and this is my opinion. This is my truth on the
Yeah, this
matter.
is your truth, Ron. Is that your truth, Ron?
This is
um,
100% my truth.
yeah. Well, I think that if we really get into the nitty gritty of things, um, you know, take Western medicine, right? You know, the truth is this pill will fix you. Well, wait a minute. That pill is alleviating the nerves in your body so you don't feel it, but it's still there.
Yeah.
And we could go on and on with that one, right? We could get political, but we don't like to do that
Yeah, that's all.
on our first podcast. That could cause trouble.
Yeah, that's a whole rabbit hole. Um
Yeah.
yeah, especially with like pharmaceutical industry and but like oh
Mhm.
like here's the thing.
Yeah, we got to be careful. We don't want to blow our first podcast. Shut it down.
Yeah, all of a sudden like YouTube channel is like
Yeah.
non-existent. Um
Alert, alert.
but the one thing that made me think of that stuff with truth was you mentioning like people find out what's true for them. And the way
Mm,
that I like to think about this same concept because I'm picking up what you're putting down with that. But the way that I like to think about it is like I feel like this is how like our everyday human experience, our egoic experience forms, right? And so here's what I mean by that. It's like if we're all like let's say just for shits and giggles that we're all the universe like looking back at itself, right? And like
okay.
we're made out of stuff from the universe like our physical bodies, like our consciousness. If it came from somewhere, I mean, it would make sense to say that it came from the universe, right?
Like
Because
the creator you're talking about?
I'm talking about just like physically. Like
Okay.
you could call it that. You could call it just space in the
Universe,
universe,
creator,
the
God.
time space continuum. There's a whole bunch of different names for it, but basically the fields of existence that we are aware of, right? Um,
Sure.
and so it's like if my consciousness and and my thoughts or whatever, even for the people that believe that like it's being generated by your brain, right? That your brain is generating this consciousness. Well, what generated your brain? Like where did those
Yeah.
molecules come from that made your brain? Well,
Right.
they came from, supernovas and stars exploding, making the different elements in the periodic table of elements, and them all coming together, and now you have a brain, and that's generating so it's very. So when I say like we're all like the universe looking back at itself, it's like every bit of us is made out of the universe, right? And I'm looking at the universe, like this wallet in my hand and this computer screen in front of me. We don't like to think that we're in space right now, but we are. We're just on a giant spaceship that we like to call Earth, that has an atmosphere, but it's moving
Yeah.
around,
Yeah.
through space. We're in the middle of the universe right now. Um,
Yeah.
and so, um, how do we go from this? Because I feel like we talked about this on our last conversation that like when babies are born and they don't have any language, don't have any
Mm.
thoughts. They're just in this. They probably still have this um like cosmic consciousness, right? Until the and I feel like once we start identifying as like me, like this thing is me, the way that we really strengthen the ego, because the ego is just my sense of self, where I feel separate from all this stuff around me. You know, I feel like it's
Mm.
me, and then it's all that. And so
Right. Right.
and so the way that that really starts to strengthen, in my opinion, is by just starting to decide what things I like and what things I don't like. Because it's like when I say I like black wallets, well, next thing I know, I just have a bunch of black wallets. My wallet breaks, I go get another black wallet because I'm like, this is me. Or I'm like, I like this shirt. I like Volcom. It's a skate brand. I like to skate.
Hmm.
And so I'll get that shirt because this shirt is me. And that's where that saying came from when you put like an outfit on. And they're
Yeah.
like, I don't know, do you think is this me? Are these sunglasses me? And then your friend will be like, oh, that's definitely you. And you're like, okay,
That's you.
cool.
That's you since the 8th grade, dude.
And
Uh,
so it's kind of cool because it also goes hand in hand with somebody saying that something is their truth or it isn't their truth.
yeah.
Because it's like almost everything that we do leads to like the solidifying of the ego and like the separateness experience, right?
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's such a great point. And that gets right into our belief system, because you truly believe your thought is correct. And that's shaping your belief system. But then all of a sudden, you knock a leg out of that theory, right, with a client or something. You say, hey, wait a minute. That truth of yours just isn't true. And then when they see that it's not true, they can't not see it. And their
Right.
belief system changes.
Here's a great example of this that I went through, right? So growing up, I used to think that I would look at, different chains and businesses that I would see because when I grew up, I had no like business mentors. Nobody in my family was in business. Like nobody that I was aware of. I'm sure there's people that I knew, friends that had parents that were in business, but it didn't make its way into my awareness, right? I just knew that I
Right.
had some friends that were like rich families, and I'm like, and I understand why. I'm like, they must have really good jobs, because and but
Yeah, yeah.
that's all I thought there was, because it's all that I was really aware of. And I would go around to like, we had a shopping center across the street from like the street that I lived on. It's like 5 minute walk down the street, and I would go in there and I see different stores, Vaughn's, CVS. It was a different pharmacy back then, but CVS bought them, and different, Taco Bell, Carl's Jr., and then a whole bunch of other stores, some banks, just a
These are
big
all these
outdoor
are all
shopping center.
plugs, by the way. These are all our sponsors. All right, good one,
Oh,
Ron. That
that'd
was
be
good. I like
nice.
how you added that.
But so like I would see all these businesses and I would think like I wouldn't even think that like, well, that's a business and it's somebody started it and there's owners of
Yeah.
it. It's a corporation and
Somebody's
there's people that have
yeah.
equity and like I looked at it almost the same way that I would look at like a branch of government, or like it just exists. It's always existed. It's always just there. And
Right.
and it wasn't until I started learning about starting online businesses when I was in my 30s, like my early 30s, when I
Okay.
got introduced to this from YouTube, and there was like a 16-year-old kid showing how to set up an e-commerce website, and he was like, yeah, you do this, and he set up the store real quick and showed how to do it using this software. And he's like, yeah, this is the product we're going to sell. I think we're going to charge let's see, I paid $2 for it, we'll charge 9. We'll say, I was like, wait, this is how stores figure out prices? I was like, you just decided like it's going to be $9, like this is how it works?
Yes.
Like,
Someone was in a bad mood and but that's pretty interesting. So Ron, I just want to, you know, tell everyone now you're what, 40? Are you 40
almost.
now? How old are you?
Don't 39.
Almost. So you're
Don't
39.
I'm
That was like
not
9 years ago, and look at what you've developed in 9 short years. Pretty
yeah,
amazing shit.
pretty cool. And you know what's funny? I could hear 9 short years and think like, what? Like that doesn't exist. But looking back at it, it's like, you know,
Yeah, like a blink of an
um,
eye, right?
yeah. And but the cool thing is, after I like had this realization and I saw this kid growing his Shopify store, because I was watching video after video, and I remember seeing that that he hit 100,000 in revenue with his store, and I was like, to me, I'm thinking like 100,000 in revenue, like that means you're getting on super yachts, and you're like, to me, I was like, that's
Yeah.
just like the richest of the richest the person could be, like in my
Yeah, yeah.
mind, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And like flying first class everywhere. That's what I thought was going on, right? And and but I remember I walked out, I went to go to work. I was working at a hospital in LA then. And I walked outside, and that's when I started noticing all the things that I didn't notice that have been right in front of me before, because this belief had broken. This belief of these things that are
Right.
always been in existence had broken.
Yeah.
And I paid my fare to get onto the bus. I paid my fare, and I just watched my money go into the thing. And I was like, huh, they said that the fare is this much, and I just paid it. And all these people are doing that. And this bus can fit like 50 people, and it's going back and forth all day. And I'm like, this is like a system that they're either providing a service to get money, and then I like would go into the gas station to get my coffee, like things that I didn't even think about. And then I go do the same thing, I pay, and then I'm like, and then I'm realizing somebody owns this gas station. Somebody
Yeah.
franchised this AM/PM, and somebody else like created the first one and then developed the model to franchise, and they're like getting pieces of all the AM/PMs. And I was like, and that's when it like
Light
really
bulb.
hit me
A
that you could
a
just build stuff,
light
and everything
goes
that we
off,
see is just
and
stuff
there's
people
Ron.
built.
Entrepreneurship, here we come.
Yeah, I was like,
And wouldn't you love to just say right after that, it was like multimillionaire right out of the gate.
uh,
But however,
yeah, it's not usually. I wouldn't say that that's not usually how it works. I would say that's I would say rarely how it works. I mean, I'm not gonna say that it's impossible, because anything's
uh,
possible. We're
yeah,
existing, and that's proof of that.
any mm,
But I've noticed a pattern, and you've probably, with your electrical business, um, have probably definitely noticed this pattern too. I'm pretty sure that as soon as I start sharing this, you're gonna be like, yeah, and like nodding your head. And
yeah,
so there's this thing, and I didn't make this up. This is something that I heard Alex Hormozy saying, but I'm paraphrasing it. And anytime that you start out on a path to do something new, it starts off and you have a bunch of uninformed optimism, which means you know nothing about it. You're super excited. You're super optimistic.
mm,
You think that you know exactly how it's going to go and the time that it's going to take to get there, right? You're like, oh, super easy. I'm going to set this up, this up, this up. This is what they all said. And then boom, we'll be right there. And then you start trudging that path, right? You start like walking that path, and then um, you realize that there are some things missing. Think of it like walking up a giant mountain, right? And you think like, okay, it's just a 4 mile hike. It's not going to take too long, but also it's like 2 miles elevation and most of it's rock climbing. Where you're like
Yeah.
shearing cliffs, and you didn't know that at the beginning. You're like 4 miles. I walk 4 miles all the time. No big deal. We'll be up there. We'll be back. And you start to go up the path, and then you realize there's this part where you got to scale some rock, and you don't even know how to
Mm.
do that yet. You don't have any equipment, and you're like, oh, like so you're gathering more data about what it actually takes to go down the path.
Yeah.
So now you've gone into the stage where you're informed. You're not uninformed anymore. You're informed and you're pessimistic because now that you've
Hmm.
got more data about what it takes, you realize, shit, this is actually going to take some work.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. And
it
the interesting thing about let's just say entrepreneurship or businesses, starting businesses, now you're in it. You're already in it. So, you have to turn into optimistic. Okay, how you got to ask the right questions, right?
right,
How are we
right,
going to get out of this? I'm in it so thick that I can't just quit. It's, you know what I mean? I've got too much into it. So
right,
now it comes to that, ask better questions, right? Because when everything goes south on you and things are looking real grim, you have to have, as a leader, you have to be able to say, wait a minute, I need to ask better questions. How are we
right.
going to get out of this?
And
You know?
that's such a great point. And like you actually asked this question just now. You said, "How are we right going to get
Hmm.
out of this?" Or how, and that's something that I try to remind myself this when I have these questions, but like it's hard to read the label from inside the jar, right?
Yeah, right,
Um, and so,
right.
but what I always advise other people to do, because it's easy to read the label from outside the jar, you know,
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
and when I see somebody asking questions like, why can't I get clients? Or like, why
Mm,
can't I get my first sales? Or why can't
yeah,
I get anybody to watch my videos? Or why can't I
yeah,
anything that starts with why can't I?
yep. Any
Then
why
I say,
question.
but but specifically, if they say why can't I, that is, I always want to reframe that for them. And I'll say, you said
Mm,
why can't I get any clients? Um, I would say, like you to ask yourself this, like this might you might feel like this is a little bit more of a powerful question for you. Let me know. Um, how could you get clients?
yeah, you made them use their own mind to answer that question.
Yeah, well, one question leads to contraction. When you say, why can't I? If when they ask themselves this, their brain is going to scan their entire thoughts and of reality and everything that they think they know, and then be like,
Mm,
this reason, this is the reason why I can't. And then if you once you say that you can't do something because of this, boom, now it's a solidified belief. That's why you can't. But the
yeah,
underlining, the bottom line of that is you can't.
right,
You
right.
know,
Because it's just like, going way back to, it was Ford, right? That said, if you can or if you can't, you're right. It was Henry
exactly.
Ford who said
Yeah.
that, right?
Whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which, and then that goes back to Albert Einstein, right? The most important question you can ask is this a hostile universe or isn't it? Right? I think
Right.
that's what he
Right.
said.
Something
Might want
like
to
that.
Google that one.
Let's check it out. But I like real quick before I do that, remind me so I don't forget. Because you did say like out of those stages that I was mentioning, it's like the
Yeah.
the uninformed, optimist stage. And that's somebody who's just learning about a new business venture, but they haven't taken any action yet. They're super excited about the possibilities of it. Whether it's online, whether it's
Mm,
traditional business, doesn't matter. Whether it's the health and fitness journey, they feel super inspired. They're gonna like lose weight or get into the best shape of their life. They're so inspired they just drove over to the gym and signed up. And now they got like their membership card, but they haven't worked
mm,
out yet, right? They're just uninformed optimism. And then start
yeah,
taking the action. Then they get informed. They realize they're starting to learn all the things that they don't really know yet. They're starting to learn how much skills they're actually going to have to acquire to get to whatever the goal is. And then it all that always comes with informed pessimism, because it's like I got to learn all this stuff. I don't feel good, right? But you mentioned the next stage. You're like, we have to figure out how to get optimistic. And so the way that
yeah,
any new thing always goes is uninformed optimism, then informed pessimism, and then you start actually learning and acquiring skills,
right.
as long as you stay with it. And then you realize like, oh, like I'm actually getting better at this. I'm actually like learning how to make videos. I'm doing live streams. I'm able to get on to sales calls and not feel weird anymore, and like different things like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now you have
Um,
informed optimism,
I think
and
it's
that's where it takes
really,
off.
like, I think it's really important, Ron, to say this. It's so important to take the first step, whether you're starting a business, whether you're going to a gym, whether you're trying to quit vaping, whatever it is, taking that first step and get into it. Because what I've noticed with a lot of people that we've coached, um, they have this mindset that they already can't do it. This is why we can't do it. I don't have rich parents. I don't have this. I don't have that, right? They've set themselves up to lose
Hmm.
because of their own thoughts, which goes back to where do your thoughts come from, right?
Right.
But you can control your mind versus, you know, everyone, or I say everyone, a lot of people who don't and just go by, oh, I can't, I can't, I can't. They're not controlling their mind. They have to control their focus, control their mind, and they're going to get a great result no matter what you do. And, even if you make, right, you make mistakes along the way, they're not mistakes if you learn from them.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that's going on starting a business, right? But you need the mindset to do it. And sure, you could train your mind because now, like I said, you're in it so deep, you're like, I can't get off the wheel now because I'm going to lose everything. So you got to keep the hike up, as you'd say, keep going up, keep climbing, and you'll figure it out.
Right. And but here's the thing that a lot of people do though. And like first of all, like you're absolutely right. But what a lot of people do is they feel like, well, I can't just walk down the mountain. But then they get to a part in the mountain where they feel like they're stuck, a certain point on this path, right? They're going
Yeah.
up and they feel like they're stuck. They feel like this next part's too hard. I don't know if I can do that part. And then they start looking around to see if there may be like a less traveled but easier path around. Like they don't want to get off. This
Hmm.
happens a lot in like online marketing and online business.
Like a comfort zone type thing.
No, here's another example without using like the mountaintop, right?
Okay.
My so when I first started learning about business, I was watching this guy doing e-commerce stuff. And so I was like, I'll do that. And I set up my store. I ran a couple ads for like 60 bucks or something like that. I got some sales. I ran a $60 ad. I got $200 in revenue that day. And I think it was like 20 or $30 profit. But once I realized that it was only 20 or $30 profit, I was like, well, I didn't like make a bunch of money. And so now I had some informed pessimism because I was like, oh, this is actually harder than I thought. Like,
Yeah.
so I got to like get better at ads, get better at picking better products that will have more profit. Basically there's more work, right? And
Yeah.
this path is a little bit harder than I thought it would be. And so then I started looking around and I was like, well, maybe I could like, maybe I'll do like affiliate marketing or something like that.
Oh, so now you're going somewhere else.
Yeah. But what I didn't know then is that I may see another path leading off in another direction
Mm,
that I think will still get me to the top. But anytime we choose a different path like that, we still have the state. Because what happens is I look at affiliate marketing, I see people doing it, and I see like their results, and I have a bunch of uninformed optimism about that. While
right,
while
right,
while I'm in this spot where I have informed pessimism for the thing that I'm already trying. And so I don't have any information about the skills that that really requires, and it looks easier. So then I go try that. And then like then I get more information about what it takes, and I'm like, "Oh, this is actually harder than I thought." And then I look around at a different business model. Maybe it's creating digital courses or selling ebooks. I'm like, "Okay, I'll go try that." And the reason I bring this up is because I talk with a lot of people that are trying to learn how to like make money online, and that's not what this channel or this live stream is about. But I see that this is a common thread. People will be stuck doing exactly what I just shared,
mm,
getting no results for like 20 years
wow,
because they're unwilling to they don't look at it this way, but I can see it that they're unwilling to like, all right, this is where it gets hard, and staying with it and doing it when it gets hard is what's required to make it work. And it's
right.
the same for any of these other things that look
Anything.
really nice
Yep.
that you haven't tried yet.
Yeah. Whether it be online, whether it be, an electrical business,
Right. I'm sure it's the
uh,
same in person, brick and
an
mortar
accountant,
services.
what, yeah, whatever it is, it's all the same. But the only thing you can bring is your mindset.
Right.
And that can be contagious to certain people around you. You want to build a team, get a team of, you know, people who think, okay, let's not ask the questions, why me? Let's ask, how can we get this done?
Right. Yeah.
You
And
know?
I think and this is like one of the reasons why it's like people say, I don't know who made these percentages up, but it's the thing that people says is like business is 80% mindset, 20% tactics. Um,
Mm.
and and ultimately, I mean, I can see why that is because if I try something and it doesn't work, if I try something and it doesn't work, like I try something one time, like maybe it's one part of the thing I'm trying, it doesn't work, and I think, well, that didn't work because of this or this, or that didn't work because Facebook doesn't like my ads account, so it's not going to work. Like
Yeah.
whatever, it's like, or you could maybe you just ran a shitty ad.
Yeah.
Maybe you got to get
Like
better at making them.
like maybe it's you, right? Nah, it can't be that. There's no
Right.
way, right? I'm I'm a genius right out of the gate.
Yeah.
I know what my audience likes. How
Right.
true is that? And I just think I don't care what it is. I don't care, what I've seen, what I've experienced is, and it doesn't it's okay if you want to be just a worker, right?
Yeah,
Because we need those people.
absolutely.
Not everyone wants the headaches that are involved with starting and running a business, you know?
Right.
And, I used to think, oh, um, here I am, I've got a business. In a few years, maybe I'll be golfing every day, right? Or whatever. Well, 30 years later, you know, um, but I've learned to enjoy every step of the way by asking better questions. What's great about this? Or what could be great? That goes way back to, when I used to listen to Tony Robbins way back in the day. One of the questions he used to say is, well, what could be what I think he had a saying like, how can, your worst day be your best day?
Mm.
And once you start asking yourself different questions, it changes your whole reality, which is pretty
Yeah,
interesting.
for sure. So I'm curious. So for you, when you were starting that electrical business, what do you think? What were some of the biggest mindset shifts that you had, like personally, like in the beginning, like in the very, very beginning, that you feel like helped with the growth, with your personal growth and the growth of the business?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, I think what happened to me, we were doing, I think it was a one or two man show here and there, but we were doing small jobs, right?
Hmm.
We'd put an outlet in a doghouse if we had to, right? And I remember this one job someone asked me to look at, and I'm like, oh, that's just way too big for us. There's no way I can handle it. And I knew this person, you know, it was a welding company, and I hooked up their first welder. And then he hit me up, said, "Hey, Bride, do you want to bid on a building I just bought?" And I'm like, "Oh, I just can't do that. We're not big enough." I was afraid, right?
Right.
But I knew the guy, and I stopped in later, and he had hired an electrical business. And I was looking at the electricians on the site, and I'm like, we could have done this, and we could have done it better than the company that he hired. And that was a wake up call for me. That was the call that said to me, "Wait a minute, we can do it. We can do it. We can do anything." With my ragtag team of electricians. You know, and the funny thing about that, fast forward, and then we started taking on a little bit of bigger projects, bigger jobs. I remember we did so on top of like one of the highest buildings in the city that we were working on, and we had the whole penthouse to do, and it was this software company, and they needed some serious power, air conditioning, you name it, they needed it. And I remember I ended up getting the job, and I was getting the prints, and all the trades met up on the 16th floor, whatever it was.
Hmm.
And we all got there, and I'm in the meeting, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, yep, just we've got it. We da, 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 on and on. I'm looking at all the prints and the timelines and all that. I remember taking all the prints. I got in the elevator, and I remember I hit, to go down, and I remember the door shut, and I'm like, "Holy shit. How are we going to do this?" Right? you know, the sweat's pouring off of me in the elevator as I'm going down. It's the middle of the winter. And
Yeah.
you know, um anyway, we pulled it together. We came up with a great plan, and there was a lot of errors along the way, but we did it, and it built confidence, and then that confidence led to the other job. Oh, we did that. We can do this. Oh, we did this. We can do that. And then next thing here we are. Targets,
Right.
Amazons, hotels, but we're still a small electrical company. We're nothing, huge compared to what, right?
Yeah.
So that's how it all happened. But it was all stepping out of that comfort zone and saying, okay, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Well, I might not meet the deadline, and I'm going to get sued, right? Because you think like that, but what's the best thing that could happen? Well, it could give you confidence to build another big one, and then now not only can you feed yourself, you can feed several families that work for you.
Mm.
So the whole mindset changes, and that's how companies, I believe, keep growing and growing and growing. you know so that's, at least that's my story.
Right. I love that story. I'm glad I asked you that because I didn't know about like those specific stories, you
Yeah.
know? And and it's always really intriguing because because for me specifically, and it's because I personally know that to go from having, let's say, like an employee mindset, right? And
Mm.
and I don't say that like it's a bad thing. I just mean like the kind of mindset where it's like you just show up, you do the stuff that you're supposed to do, and then you go home when you're off work, you're not thinking about it, everything's all done,
Yeah.
it's all
Yeah.
good. And you're not really thinking about like the trajectory and the growth and expanding your capabilities and how you can do things more efficient every day, every day, every day. Like that's not really what employees tend to think about, right? Unless they're told to. And then they're like, "Oh, damn it, I
Yeah.
gotta keep doing that." Um, but like usually,
Yeah.
and and but going from like that mode of thinking, which I was in for my whole life,
Mm.
to until I was like 30, right? To the mode of thinking of like, all right, like how can I take on things that seem like they're a little too big and make that the new comfort zone. And then once that's the new comfort zone, take on things that seem like they're a little too big and then make that the new
Mm.
comfort zone.
Yeah.
And like it's a big shift to go from one way of thinking to the other. But
Yeah. It is. Sure.
I've noticed at least for me, like I love that. And it's not for everybody. You know, some people may not like that at all. They're like, no, I just like repetition and the routines, and I like to be able to be in a company that's just growing. Some people don't want to take on any of the risk of that, but they like to
Mm.
be experience growth in a company that's growing. And some people don't even want that. They just want it to be the same. They want to go to work, feel like they did something that contributes in some way, shape, or form, and then go home and be able to like live the life that they want there. But I believe that like fundamentally as people, we all feel fulfillment from some sort of expansion. It doesn't have to be in work and in career. It could be in like developing a skill set in your like leisure time, whether it's like
Yeah.
skateboarding,
That's a
paddleboarding,
yeah.
hiking, climbing, you know, but like,
Because those are all
but,
important
but
things too. You
yeah,
know. Like I think a balanced life is really important. You know. My first mentor was definitely a workaholic to the extreme. Like I've never met another human being that worked as much as this guy. And I remember he told me, he said, "Bri," and I was a young guy. I worked for him, and I remember he said, "Bri, if you ever have a problem, just go to work. It'll go away. Just go to work. Put your head down and go to work." Right. So I did that philosophy for years. But we both know, right? If you keep putting your head down and just going to work, you're ignoring another problem in your life. And sooner than later, that problem's going to expand and come at you and hit you real hard.
yeah,
And, so he taught me many other things, but he was growing a business as well. But he was older than me. And, you know, um, before he passed, on to another life, I sat down with him and he said, "Hey, look, there's more to life than just working." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I hear you." And he looked right at me, right in the eyes, because he had that. And he looked right at me. He says, "Can you hear me right now?" And that's all it took. I said, "Yeah, I hear you." So, I'm trying to enjoy a little time with friends and family, and
yeah.
you know,
You know, there's this what you just shared. It made me think of and this is something that I learned from one of my mentors. His name's Sam. He's still around. He runs a software business now, Sam Evans, and and he was talking about scaling a business and creating mess, because this is how he would talk about that same concept of like if
mm,
you're scaling a business, not just like starting or getting clients, but like you're scaling, you're taking on rapid growth. You're taking on new projects that expand your capabilities. As soon as the capabilities are expanded, you're taking on bigger ones, and then you're like hiring new people to help take on the bigger ones. If you're in that phase and you're doing that in a business, whether it's a service-based business that's not on
Mm.
the internet, or an e-commerce type business, uh, but anytime that you're in scaling mode, you're creating mess somewhere else.
Like,
Because
so when you say like mess, like MESS,
yeah, like, so here,
okay.
and what the mess really is, it's things, problems. It could be mess in the business, where it's like how you're keeping track of things with with your like standard operating procedures that need to be updated for the business
Yeah.
growth, but they're
Yeah.
not being updated because you're just focusing on taking on the new task, right? So there's some
Mm.
mess that needs to get cleaned up there. It could be the amount of time that you're focusing on work, and it could be strained personal relationships, or it could be your house being a total mess because like you haven't gotten to the point where you just hire a cleaner to do the stuff yet, and like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all your time is just being focused on the business, and like it like met because massive amounts of focus and energy are being put into one area, then it's being taken away from other areas. And it's kind of like the law of entropy, where it's like anything that's left in its normal just state, it goes into entropy. It's like if you have a patch of plain dirt outside, and you don't do anything to it, well, weeds start growing, right? It's like there has to be
Yeah.
focus put on things to keep them how they are. And so that's the mess. And so, but the balancing act is, because I found that it's really hard to get a business to grow, especially start and grow,
Mm.
without putting extra focus on it, right?
Right.
Um, but that means that while you're doing that, you're going to be creating mess over here,
Yeah, and
and over
that's
here is somewhere
yeah.
else, other areas of your life, whatever.
Yeah.
And then it's like finding that the time to take some of the focus off this thing and clean up the mess.
Yeah.
Like the time that I feel like when is the right time to do that? I think it's different for everybody. Because some people can just let the mess stack up and stack up and stack up. But then also it's like if that mess involves other people, you gotta take care of those people,
Yeah,
and personal relationships, and
exactly, and that's the thing that, maybe some people don't see. And some people do see it, but
yeah.
yeah, you built a business, you did great, but um, you I don't want to say ruined some relationships. Sometimes it's just not meant to be. But, when you're with somebody and they say, could you just put down the phone for 5 minutes? And you're like, well, what are you complaining about? I just took you on vacation.
Yeah.
Well, they're not looking for a place to go. They're looking for your time. Right. So it's a balancing act. Um, and it's like a comfort zone, right? Like, I think, and you could maybe look this one up, Steve Jobs, before he passed on to another life. I think he mentioned something, his last statement, something about, teach your kids how to be happy. It was something like that versus make money, you know?
uh
You're my expert IT guy, Ron.
it's funny, I'm looking it
Spread.
up right now. His literal last words were, "Oh wow, oh wow, oh wow," and then he passed away.
Oh,
um
okay.
but
Yeah, I don't know.
Steve
Maybe he was
Jobs,
seeing something. Yeah.
um last last quotes.
All right. That's what I like about
um
you, Ron. You find things so fast. It's
Hold on,
gonna
I'm
be
gonna
on the
share my
screen any
screen here in
second.
a
I can
second.
feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to boom share that, and Okay, maybe this is it. Let's get rid of all this.
Hmm.
Where's the actual quote at? Non-stop pursuit of wealth will only turn a person into a twisted being. Then there's the oh wow, oh wow, oh wow. The wealth I have won in my life, I cannot bring with me. What I can bring is only the memories precipitated by love. I reached the pinnacle of success in the business world. In others' eyes, my life is the epitome of success. However, aside from work, I have little joy. In the end, my wealth is only a fact of life that I am accustomed to. At this moment, lying on my bed and recalling my life, I realize that all the recognition and wealth that I took so much pride in have paled and became meaningless in the face of my death. You can employ someone to drive the car for you, make money for you, but you cannot have someone bear your sickness for you. Material things lost can be found or replaced, but there is one thing that can never be found when it's lost: life. Whichever stage in life you're in right now, with time, you will face the day when the curtain falls. Treasure love for your family, love for your spouse, love for your friends. Treat yourself well and cherish others.
Yeah. So pretty
Yeah,
powerful.
yeah.
You know, first we first we get them going on that entrepreneurship,
And
and
then we're
then we
like, then we just smash it down and we're like, just be grateful for what you have.
I love that. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Oh man. Yeah.
This podcast is about giving them hope and then
Taking
taking
it
it
away.
away. All in what? How long have we been doing this? An hour.
Oh, that's hilarious. Man, I'm stoked that we're just doing this. If you guys are watching this, if you're watching this live or if you're watching this during the week, we're going to be doing these um, every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific time, uh, 7 p.m. East Coast time. If you're over there where Brian's at, it'd be dope to one day do this like in the same room. But I'm in California, you're in New Hampshire, so
Yeah.
this is
It's
how it
been
works.
fun. We
Yeah,
finally recorded one.
yeah. But
um,
I like the flow of it too, man. We just hop on, we just go live, and like,
yeah, and whatever happens, happens. And even if people like maybe they want us to talk about how we feel about certain things,
yeah,
I'm fine with that. Leave some comments.
yeah. Let us know,
You know,
for sure.
couple of couple of guys just giving their opinions from the East Coast and the West Coast.
Yeah, just sharing our truth. Little Easter egg for anybody
Yeah.
who wants.
Well, that's my truth, Ron.
Right.
Pretty
Yeah.
interesting how we went from Plato, the Greek philosopher, to Steve Jobs. Had a
Yeah.
little Prince in there.
Yeah. Oh,
Was
it's fun.
fun.
I forgot the whole reason I brought up Plato to begin with, right? In that story
Yeah.
was when you asked me if Tyga had came up with that um can't read the label from in the jar thing.
Oh
And I
yeah, I
was
can't
thinking
read
like
lips inside the jar.
this whole thing that we like to share about like consciousness and transforming our beliefs and like how we view reality and like being stuck in a fixed mindset. It's like none of this is new. Plato was sharing this stuff like 500 BC
I know
because
that's the
that's what that
amazing.
story was,
It's the
was about.
amazing thing. It's just so amazing when you think about that. And
Yeah,
there's lots of people who came, way before.
way before Plato.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it just goes on and on and on. It's very interesting that the people who pick up on how the mind works and can put it in a language that you can understand. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And the other cool thing is like all that stuff is like still applicable. It's like technology can evolve as much as it has since then, but like the nature of the mind and our thinking
Yeah.
and our ability to think about our thinking and then wonder, well, what's even going on there is like
Right.
hasn't changed. It's still like the great mystery. And it's like I feel like it's even more of a mystery now that we have all this technology and all of these like quote unquote distractions. I have so many other things to think about other
Mhm.
than my thinking. you know,
Yeah, yeah.
like I actually have to choose to think about that.
I
and
know. It's
I went to the gym yesterday, right? And I as I was going in there, my my AirPods they had died. And I didn't
mm.
realize this until I was walking into the gym. And I just ate a bunch of crackers and hummus and probably a mistake right before going to go work out. Like
Yeah,
so
I
I
mean,
was
crackers and hummus, that's I don't know, where is that on the nutrition scale?
I mean, it's not terrible. It's not like a large pizza, but it's like I usually
Yeah.
don't want to have my stomach filled with crackers and
Yeah.
hummus before going to go lift.
Yeah.
And I ate like half a box. I ate a lot of them. And then I went straight to the gym. And then I was like not feeling good, right? Thinking about how not good I'm feeling, thinking about like how my stomach's all bloated. Then I was like, I'm just gonna block it out with some music. And then I open these up and they're dead.
It's
And
a
I'm
sign.
and I'm just in there and it was like the hardest workout that I had in a long time, not because I was killing it, just it was just difficult to get through because the whole
Mm.
time it's just me and my thoughts for the whole hour.
Wow. We're going deep with Ron Carter.
And compare that to like back in the day when it's like, just a couple hundred years ago. For it was that was everybody's baseline. It's just you and your thoughts all day, every
Yeah,
day.
crazy. Hey, I was just thinking, would it be funny if someone ordered a pizza in the gym? Guy comes in with a pizza delivered, you're doing squats.
Or just have it delivered to the gym for like
Yeah.
they walk in, have it delivered to the gym for like knowing like all right, like it's gonna be here in 40 minutes. I'm gonna kill it in here, and then it's like as soon as they walk out of the gym, they pay for their pizza. Like yeah, like, I earned it.
Yeah. Just to think like that, you can tell that it's kind of late out here in New Hampshire tonight.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're 3 hours ahead, so it's 10:30.
Yeah.
I feel like this episode is complete. I don't
Yeah.
know how to end live podcast episodes yet, other than to say I feel like it's complete. What about you?
Yeah. Well, peace
All
out.
right, cool. Peace, guys. See you next week,
Yeah.
Thursday,
Hey, leave some
4 p.m.
comments. Tell us
Pacific.
what you want us to talk about. We'll talk about anything. We can
Oh,
do that, right, Ron?
sure. I mean, unless it's like, sure, let's do it.
Anything. I
Anything.
mean, it's just our truth,
Yeah.
our opinion.
Whatever your truth is, our truth, your truth, we'll
Yeah.
cover it. But
We'll
anyways,
cover
next week, 4 p.m. Thursdays Pacific time, 7 p.m.
it. Yep.
Eastern time. And if you live somewhere else in the world, I'm sure you can figure it out. Google has this really awesome thing. It's a time converter. You can just type in 7 p.m. EST, put in
Yeah.
your time zone, and then it will tell you what time that is for you. So, anyways, hope you guys are having a good one. We'll see you next week.
See you later, Ron.
See ya.